Hello, guys, and welcome to episode 14 of What If Civilization Started Over. In the last episode, we saw many events happening, such as South China creating colonies in the Americas. We saw Australia get discovered, and probably the biggest event of the episode was we saw a major civil war breaking out in the blue team. So, if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get started. So, we'll be starting off with explorations, but similar to with what happened in South China, uh, explorations and the war in the blue team are happening at the same time. But we see the we see these nations like exploring up in the South African area. We see a large part of this area is still undiscovered, but the countries are attempting to fill this in so that they can know like what's around it here. We see almost all of Madagascar is discovered. It's just this tiny bit here that's left undiscovered. And I believe these are the Comoros Islands are also discovered. Over in South America, we don't see a whole lot of exploration. However, there is still some going into the Amazon rainforest and the Andes Mountains. These countries are starting to develop better tech to explore into these areas. And we also see South China exploring around their colony, meeting up with Denmark. Now, because this is the technically first episode of where civilization started over week 2, or WICSO week 2. I forget what I was just gonna say. Um, so I didn't fully finish the province map. I got a lot of African nations done here and nothing else. But like the big issue or the big part was in here. And soon we will see this finally come into play. Alright. But anyway, we see Catalonia science team exploring slightly into the Rocky Mountains. They have the Pyrenees back here. However, that's not really anything compared to the Rockies, I think. I might be wrong on that. But anyway, we see the South Chinese team will continue exploring up the Alaskan coast. And we see another country make a landing in the Aleutian Islands and exploring around here. Up in Greenland, we see a bit more bits discovered. And we also do see a bit more is discovered into the Sahara Desert. Yes, I know it's black, but right now, but like I have that I've been doing. And just paint bucket it. I really hope I didn't sound racist when I said that. We see Russia discover a bit more into Siberia. And we also see a bit more discovered into this central part of Asia. Actually, they're probably in the Himalayas, right? So I think the Himalayas are like right in here, maybe even part of this Tibetan nation. But we see one last exploration happening, and that is in Australia, as we see the purple team, aka North France, continuing to explore around the Australian coast. The same thing happens with the Sumatrans as they continue to explore and meet up with the with the North French. I am not remembering anything right now. We see the Papua New Guineans, or not, the Borneo nation explores many of these islands. We also see the north of Tasmania, and eventually all of Tasmania gets discovered. That will do it for explorations. And let's take a look at the expansions. You thought I was gonna do something else, didn't you? Nah, this time I don't have anything else really planned for this episode other than two things. So, you'll see these nations expanding a bit on their own, especially Africa. So we see a lot of expansion. I'm going I'm gonna make the borders look a bit better after the episode ends. So you guys won't have to look at horrendous borders for very long. Oh, actually, that's not true. And except for being quiet. Normally when I'm doing this, I am just like kind of quiet. So I'm not entirely used to it yet. But we see the North French team will claim over almost all of South Africa. Catalonia claimed a good bit. And we see even some of the African nations expanding, claiming over a decent chunk of the lands around. We see the Indian nation is the Indian makes a colony here in Australia. However, we see not just North France, but also Borneo, or also Sumatra, kind of upset about this, as like this is the land they were claiming over. But we see them also exploring a bit around in this area. For Borneo, or not Borneo, Sumatra, they will be claiming over all of this here. And they claim part of this. You actually see most of the western part go over to the or the eastern part go over to the pink team. And Borneo and the pink team both are kind of, or Sumatra and Borneo are both kind of stretched out right now. I actually don't see this area get claimed yet. And I'm totally not just finding things to do. South China will be claiming over all of this. And the country that had claimed, or not claimed, but discovered the Aleutian Islands will not be revealed yet. But you guys probably can take a guess as to which country it was. Catalonia will expand their colony in South America, meeting up with South China. And for the last event in South America, we see Denmark expanding their colony. Yeah, not a whole lot less expansion happened to this episode than in most episodes, but that's because we have another major event happening this episode. And for the nation that had discovered the Aleutian Islands, it is Korea. And they will be claiming over a decent chunk of Alaska. And now on to the main event of the episode. Yes, there will be no expansion in Asia. The main event of the episode is the civil war in the blue team. The blue team is the strongest nation in the world right now, but most of their military is likely down here and has rebelled against the nation. We see more groups pop up like down here. And eventually these groups will decide that they're fine with what they have and will start invading. Not like they already could before. But they seem to be having some outside help as pretty much the entire blue team just falls over quite quickly. And all that will happen is simply a new government, one that maybe isn't expansionist. But that's not the main event of the episode. What is the main event of the episode is something major. Something quite new. Only happened once before. And this is where we see the religion map comes into play. Taking a look at the religion map, we see that the blue team's religion is quite big, one of the biggest, including its branches, which it has two of. One of them kind of mixed with the red team and their branches, and the other is from when the Azerbaijan nation that broke away from the, or not broke away, but had settled in a different area than the rest of the team. Yet still, these are quite close. All three of these share similar traits, although the most different one is easily the bluish purple religion. But with the new religion, or not new religion, but similar religions, we see the new government here that was placed right in this major city, aka the capital of the pre-blue team. The new government is very pro-Caucasian and pro-Istanbul. This is because that rebellion was completely funded by these two nations. Ethiopia also had a small play in this, but we see a couple nations will join a major union. These are Caucasia, Crimea, Azerbaijan, Caspia, and Istanbul. And this is the beginning of the Great Empire, which is also known as the Great Empire of Caucasia, Anatolia, and Crimea, which is sure. I had this event planned for a very long time, and going on to the capital layer, we see this nation has 6 capitals, but not any. None of the current capitals will remain as the main capital. And this nation is likely one of these, is not likely, but the strongest nation, far surpassing any other nation by a very long shot. Switzerland at this point is closer, and if you had to compare Switzerland to these guys, it would be like comparing the Vatican to Italy. I know, actually, that's not true at all, but anyway, this major city right here will be, actually, this major city right here will become the new capital. And there. So now we see a new major power coming into play. Or it's not even a new major power. It's been a major power. And actually, let's take a look at the new rankings now that there's a new country in play. Alright, so the number one nation is very obviously the Great Empire. Forget the races. Number 2 is still Switzerland. Number 3 is now Italy. Number 4 has now become Russians, and Denmark is still at number 5. However, 4 and 5 are very close. Number 6 is now South China. 7 is North China. And 8 is Korea. The ninth strongest nation is these guys down here. Number 10 goes to Catalonia. 11 is North France, and 12th goes to the Dutch team. With this boost with less countries in their way, the the green team is now the 13th strongest nation. Coming down here, 14 will go to Ethiopia, and 15 will go to the Kenyan nation. And very close by, 16 is the Tanzanians. 17 will go to India. Maybe big, but they don't have any issues with other nations other than now the purple team in the Sumatras. 18 goes to Central China, and oops, and 19 goes to the Japanese Union. And lastly, the 20th strongest nation is Lake Baikal. But that will do it for today's episode. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.